All right, everybody. Welcome to the SIG Docs meeting. Today's date is May 21st. It is a beautiful Tuesday. My name is Jim Angel, and I will be hosting today's meeting. I'm thinking today might be a relatively light meeting due to the many attendees in Barcelona, but we will do our best to relay any messages to them and catch up with them the next day. So with that, let me start off by asking, is there anybody who is brand new to contributing to SIG Docs? Or anyone new to the team want to introduce themselves?
Yeah, that'll be me. First off, my name's Simon Forster. Nice to meet everyone. Yeah, I went along to the New Contributors Summit here in Barcelona yesterday, and yeah, ended up speaking to Raul about contributing to docs, and yeah, very fruitful, and yeah, I'm keen to get involved.
Awesome. Welcome, Simon. Definitely reach out if there's anything we can do to help out. And yeah,
thank you. I've got my trainer wheels on at the moment.
We'll do a good job taking them off pretty quick.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else? Nope. All right. So some updates and reminders. The PR Wrangler for this week is Peter Zhao. I put that note in the agenda. And then the PR Wrangler next week is Tim Zhang, also in the agenda there. I'm not sure if we have Barney on the call. Let me double check. I don't think I saw him. But I did notice he updated the agenda notes with a 115 release team update. He said nothing much, still getting folks to open their draft PR as they're approaching. The relatively small agenda for today. And Simon Forster, the man of the hour, it looks like. So do you want to walk us through what's going on for the agenda item there?
Yeah, certainly. So I was speaking to Raul yesterday, and there was quite a lot of discussion at the table around the localization efforts that are being undertaken. And I asked him, is there something that native English speakers are able to do in some way, or that they may be able to help with the localization efforts? So whether that was being somebody that people can speak to around clarifying difficult English wording or whatever. Or, you know, it came up in a conversation around, yeah, I guess the reach of the docs, and also how, you know, with the localization efforts, it you know, facilitates adoption around the world. So it was within that context that was the basis of it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's a really great idea, and definitely some of my involvement with the localization efforts. I don't want to say it appears to be all over the place, but from a native English speaker, it's hard to really get involved at a deeper level beyond initially. But I'm interested if anyone else on the call has any other thoughts on that. Hearing nothing. I'm happy to share my feedback. I just don't want to be the only person talking here. I definitely think there's a coordination effort there. Zach has done an amazing job at coordinating how that looks like to onboard new languages. But I do think that there could be I don't want to say contributor experience, like Contribex type approach to onboarding the localization teams and seeing them through, but maybe a somewhat of a smaller version of that. I know we have some guidelines outlined for what localization looks like, but taking that a step further of where do you go to get help, and then having those pieces translated in their native languages. You know, I think it'd be a cooperative effort, and I think especially for SIG Docs, the important piece would be finding finding someone who's bilingual in whatever the two languages they can connect the dots on, as well as understanding Kubernetes. And I fear it might slowly be a funnel problem where you have people who understand Kubernetes. It gets smaller for a different specific language. It gets smaller for bilingual, and I think we might have a issue discovering that. But I think I think the concept is very noble. I guess it's desirable to make it a lot easier for the localization efforts to be successful. I mean, the more successful they are, the more successful Kubernetes will be, the more successful the project will be. So I definitely see value in connecting that. And I think what we might want to do is reschedule this agenda item for next week when we have a little bit heavier attendance. And actually, next week might be the Asia Pacific meeting, I think, if I'm not mistaken, which is the fourth Wednesday of every month or fourth Tuesday of every month. And so that means it might unfortunately get pushed out 2 weeks just to get maximum attention. I think we can definitely bring this up at the Asia Pacific meeting too, because there's a lot of localization going on there. But then to circle back with the regularly scheduled meeting, I think in 2 weeks. So if you're up for attending 2 more meetings and talking about this, I think that would be fantastic.
Sure, no problem at all with that. So yeah, be happy to do that. Just perhaps for some further background, just for food for thought on that. And part of the conversation was around untangling difficult English and providing further clarity around, English that's quite tough for people who are translating to work with, really. So I have a background in linguistics, so that's hence my interest in the topic. Perhaps that was it.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate you bringing that up, and I made some notes in the agenda there, and I'll clean that up as well. Cool. So we'll revisit that, and thanks again for bringing that up, Simon. Is there anything else that is up for discussion that may or may not be in the agenda?
Yeah, hey, I'd just like to bring up the examples in the tutorials. I ran into an issue not too long ago that has to do when we removed the images from Docker Hub for the security reasons. I was going through some of the examples and trying to correct some of those, and people, I think we need to pay more attention to giving those examples tech previews before we approve the changes to the documents, because what I've noticed is there's been quite a few PRs for some of those examples, in my case specifically Redis, where people just change the image name from the ones we pulled to the official Redis image in this case, but I'm sure it also relates to others, but then did not run through the tutorial to see if there were other issues in the doc somewhere. And it just became this long process for one of these PRs I submitted, and it just turned into a whole ordeal. So I kind of just shut it down. But I think that I just want to bring up that we should pay attention to that stuff, because a lot of those tutorials don't work even with the updated docs. It's like they just change, people are changing one specific object and then not running through things.
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. And I think that is an issue where a version changes or a tag changes, and a quick PR is just to change that tag and then call it a day without actually testing the full manifest, because that takes time.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions on how to make that better, or I guess how to improve the process?
Well, no, not really. I don't know, I don't know what the fix would be, because 3 or 4 people commented on that PR, but no one ran, it's like no one wanted to do the work. And I think it's just like something, including myself, like I'm not pointing names, like I just didn't have time to run through everything. I ran through it once before, noticed it didn't work, made the notes in the thing saying, hey, this needs a tech preview, and then everyone else, it was just like stacking up on top of things I'd already said, and it just turned into this long thread about, it got nowhere, is my point. And so I don't know what the fix is. I'm just throwing it out there that maybe we should pay more attention to some tech preview stuff, or come up and talk about how we're going to address those issues.
Just a quick thought on this. Am I right to say that the example, which normally, but not all of them, should go through the, we have a example underscore test Go file, which normally is trying to exercise and validate the manifest. Am I right to say that if the example is part of that test, that test is not enough, because then you need to also kind of read the entire task or anything like that, which kind of may or may not discover other bits. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think so, because I think what's happening is while the manifest looks good, the whole tutorial might not complete, right? So it's the other the other things that kind of jump in further down the line.
Right. Because there was and there's still an open, at least one which I opened it, and the plan was to kind of go around the entire code base and move every single manifest into the example, at least to be covered on that one. However, as you just pointed out, I believe we do have a gap in terms of how do you test the entire page and the time and such. Right. I believe on that point, one of the problem would be, obviously, as you just mentioned, the time, but then even apart from that one would be whether we do need somehow to have a cluster somewhere, to spin up a cluster and then do it, rather than folks do it manually. I don't know. Maybe that's too heavy lifting. But there is something which obviously it's up for improvements, I guess.
Sure.
Although it's a bit difficult because of the test. If you look on the task, okay, you follow the task, but then the task is not only like a how-to, so to speak. Follow these steps and then job done. But then if you move to concepts, then you have a bigger problem. So only maybe the tutorials which kind of follow the steps approach would work. But apart from that, it's hard to find another way.
No, I agree. That's kind of why I brought it up.
Yeah, no, I think it's an important topic to discuss. One thing I'm thinking is that there could be some form of tooling built into the tests that we do on part of our approval process. The problem is I'm a little reluctant to introduce additional tooling and heavy-handedness in some of these different processes when I guess I might need to understand the PR a little bit better, take a look at what actually was failing or changed. And the reason I say that is because if we were to put a test in place, let's say that it just validates the YAML spec or that it validates that it can work as a deployment, there could be another problem with the image not existing, or this, the spec's correct, but this is not the correct path, or what is the issue that is reoccurring, or are we seeing it infrequently enough that it's not worth, investing in the testing suite that would be wrapped around something like that. But we already are doing the integration tests for the Kubernetes website. So it doesn't seem out of this world, but I just wonder what the impact is versus the time spent maintaining and managing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's a ton of examples out there. We don't have, an encyclopedia of tutorials to go through, right? There's a handful, but it's not, it's not a massive catalog. So, so I don't know what the risk versus reward would be. I mean, I can't, say anything to that.
Yeah, no, appreciate you bringing that up. So with that, is there any other agenda items that folks would like to discuss?
One thing which I believe I also brought it up on Slack, would be nice if more folks with the history will jump in on the thread which is going on the SIG docs, SIG cluster lifecycle and such, like with regards to the terminology used around, master versus control plane, nodes or machines or compute for versus workers and such like. Because I think would be beneficial if we jump in and then maybe try to drive to a conclusion. I know the more people you have, the less likely you get to an agreement, but I think it's also an important topic to kind of address the docs, because as it was also a PR open, and someone also in Slack who brought it up, is like, you look in COPS docs, it says one thing. You look in, I don't know, OpenShift docs, it says another thing. You look in our side, kubeadm and such like. So yeah, that's my quick heads up or note.
Yeah, appreciate it. Dan, do you mind adding that link either in chat or in the agenda, just so we could keep track of it?
Right. Yep. We'll look it up and then I will add it in the agenda. There is a mailer, as I said, going on, and I will look it up the mailer, and then also in the Slack someone brought it up again. Okay. But
cool.
I will update.
Awesome. Thank you. And do we have any current comments on where it's at today? I guess, is there community leaning one way or the other, or is it still very much an ongoing debate?
Fortunately, it's one ongoing debate, because as I said, we have the SIG architects, and then SIG the cluster lifecycle folks, trying to agree on the terminology, and there is no agreement. Initially, like, I started, and I think I mentioned in the last week meeting with JD. I started on my own without even knowing it. Prodding the folks in cluster lifecycle, and then to my surprise, I saw this big thread going on, and I wasn't aware of, because I wasn't subscribed to the other mailers apart from SIGDocs. So yeah, it seems it's a bigger initiative, and it's not that simple to just change your master to control plane nodes.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with context, right? In the context of COPS, then it could mean this, or with the COPS example, instance groups. In the context of, the life cycle, it could mean something else. And I think that's where the challenge is going to be, is getting everybody to agree on what it means, because everybody's view is different based on the context of where they're working from.
Right.
And it's just kind of turned into a very hot topic recently.
Yes, it did.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for raising visibility on that, Danny. And then we'll add that URL in the chat there as well, or in the agenda, and then folks with more history can definitely give some input there. I've seen the discussion, and I've seen this kind of bubble up and fizzle out, and bubble up again and fizzle out. It'd be awesome if this actually takes effect and we all agree on a standard, and I'm really hoping this one doesn't fizzle out, but unfortunately this has kind of been one of those turmoils in discussion.
Right, and at the end of the day, we are in the middle, so to speak, because when someone without any history comes and initially started with minions, then we moved to nodes, then we moved to worker. Now it's like, okay, we kept it to a master, but master is no longer means anything, and that doesn't mean much nowadays. And then yeah, it's a lot of confusion. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. If only that was the most confusing part of Kubernetes. Nice. All right. Was there anything else we wanted to bring up for the agenda today? Hearing silence, I'm going to give the official Zach countdown. All right, that's a SIG meeting. Appreciate everyone stopping by. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
See ya.
Thank you.